And of course, we have a very special guest in studio with us from the city of Twin Falls, and that is, of course, Councilman, and I guess some people say councilor, sometimes it's Councilman Chris Talkington. And which one do you prefer?
At your service.
Yes.
I'm here to serve. I don't care. Call me Chris. That's all I care.
That's well said by an Air Force veteran. You learn that, and it never goes away, does it?
There you go.
Hey, we were talking off air for a couple of minutes just about a story that was mentioned the other day, a discussion at City Hall. And of course, it's a nationwide discussion too. And I think in Idaho, Meridian is the only other place so far I've read about that's talking about these body cameras for police officers. I want to note it's coming up on 8 minutes after 9 o'clock, 69. And you're listening to Top Story on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com with Bill Colley. And so when I read about Meridian, I think I read that in the Press Tribune or whatever it's called from up in that area. And then you're more familiar having lived in Nampa in that area and worked there too as well. But I was just within a week, I think I read about the discussion here. And I haven't talked to any police officers. I don't know what their feelings are about it one way or the other.
Well, I doubt if there are many people right now, Bill, that don't have an opinion on body cams for police officers. We know what's been happening nationally. The city of Twin Falls is getting in on a federal grant where we have to pay a portion of the money for equipping our officers with body cams, and it's actually for the protection of the citizenry as well as the uniforms. We know that the crazy world we live in right now, under the influence of alcohol and drugs and road rage, that not so much ethnic unrest as just individual ones in the West, that police officers are expected to have high levels of proficiency and training, and they sometimes only have that camera to make it a he said, she said in case of a confrontation. We want to protect both sides of the party, and we think we can do that with body cams.
I saw a story, I think it might have been the Daily Caller online, where a woman had accused a police officer of being nasty, and then when they actually pulled the tape from the police officer's body cam, it was anything but. I mean, it showed that he actually did his job just by the book.
Well, sure. Yeah, and we don't want to make general statements, sweeping statements. There will always be exceptions, but our officers, our academy graduates, are highly trained, as nicely trained or highly trained as I'm aware of any in the state of Idaho. Mistakes happen, but by and large, cameras can be used in evidentiary findings and sorting out the he said, she said, this is what the facts show. We think that it'll enhance safety and maybe lower the boiling level all the way around in these hot summer days.
There is an argument, though, that police officers, in the course of a job, if they're running, and sometimes they have to do a lot of those things, chasing someone down, you're not going to get a very steady shot. And I think the people out there who think, from the other side of this argument, oh boy, we're going to show you what those police officers are really like, you're not going to necessarily get that evidence that they think they're going to get from this.
Well, sometimes we tend to forget that microphones are often open in police cars, and if there's an altercation going on close to a uniformed car, sometimes that audio is the first line of interpretation of what really did happen. So combining the audio and the video, we think, will enhance public safety and accountability.
There's still a search going on, I guess, for the new police chief.
Indeed. It was so difficult. We had a handful of candidates that the investigative committee was extremely thorough on. We didn't feel that they were the best selection, and at least one of them later withdrew. So we're back to the drawing board on that.
There are a lot of qualified people, I would assume, out there. It's just getting them to apply in large numbers.
Well, you'd be surprised how few people buy into community policing, which means it's not an officer looked at as a threat in the neighborhood, but they're to uphold the law, but also to be of help. And we expect our officers to build communication bonds with the public, and we need to have a person at the very top that is really committed to making the police look as an integral part of community safety and not just as a threat to somebody that's jaywalking.
I was going to say, you need a great communicator in this day and age.
I think that's a good way of putting it, Bill. It's got to be an all-around communicator, and we'll get that person, male or female.
The job would seem to me to be a plum job because we're becoming a big city. We were just talking about that off air as well.
Oh, yeah.
That the fact, you told me last time we were together that we're doing $1 billion in revenue from just retail. And I went and looked up what California does in, I think it was agriculture every year. They're doing 22 billion. So
That's
Little Twin
incredible.
Falls is doing just a 20th
Yeah,
in retail of what they do in agriculture.
another way of looking at it, we're a fourth or a fifth the size of Boise, but we have, if you include the school construction, we have close to $700 million of capital projects, about the same as Boise going on. We have 11 subdivisions in various stages of platting. Twin Falls has never seen this type of growth. It probably in 3 years will have peaked and will be leveling off to some sense of suitability and sensibility. We're still very much looking to tourism as our number two industry in the state in the Magic Valley. With our recreation potential, we see nothing but a magnet this area will provide to bring more people in. But we've got to keep a balance between growth and quality of life. People can't live here and not have a sense of community of where they live.
And when you mention people come here for a number of reasons, and of course, if you just look at that canyon and you can go north of town and you've got falls as well, or is it north? I'm thinking north because of the way I'm driving, but it's sort of, I guess, more sort of a northeasterly type of trip. But when you do those things, people want to be near that, and I guess that's where a lot of the building is going on. But you had mentioned that at one time it was all thought that it would happen on the south side, but it also seems from what I'm noticing it's starting to pick up there again as well.
It is. We've had problems with water pressure in the south end of town, and we're boosting the water pressure and storage. We expect a lot of new growth to come to this area of town, probably equaling what will and is happening in the northwest part of town. But no matter where the growth is happening, we have to have schools, we have to have streets, and it eventually boils down to my mantra that city government works. We're the ones that put the streets for you to go to the school or shopping or to work. We have police and fire that make your home life safe. We have parks where you can commune a little bit. I think we're going to see some extraordinary expansion of our tourism capabilities, Bill, here with the Canyon Rim Trail that people are starting to come here not only to jump off the bridge, base jump off the bridge, but to walk the trail. We are going to be a destination, if we're not already, for tourism all over the world, especially the United States, but the world.
It's coming up on 9:15 and 70 at our studios. You're listening to Top Story on News Radio 1310 KLAX and newsradio1310.com. Chris Talkington is with us from the Twin Falls City Council, and if you have a question or comment for him, you can reach us at 736-0300. When we talk about that growth, though, and balancing it is a key, but most places when you get this type of rapid growth, you actually end up with a better hospital system. You end up with it becomes almost world class. Better schools come out of it. You find in many respects, and I saw this growing up in an area which was very tiny. You saw the thing contract, and because of that, services contracted as well. So that additional money that's coming in tax revenue and the like fuels a lot of these better, I guess that's a good way to put it, better institutions.
Well, and we hope that the wage scale will be increasing significantly in the coming years because of the commerce coming into the town. Southern Idaho is it's not economically depressed, but we have a much lower wage scale than around the area, and it's about time we get a boost for the people working and the standard of living coming up. I'm optimistic. Bill, I would like to have your listeners' input, though, on what they'd like to see the new city hall look like. We're talking with the architects right now, and downtown Main Street, the old Banner building is going to be the new city hall. And people are starting to say, this is what I'd like to see the exterior look like. Everyone wants to get rid of that old purple-red metal. But I would like to have some input on what the people would like to see the building actually look like when we're through in a year and a half.
A lot of people probably favor just some sort of a brick facade, I would imagine.
I think that some sort of permanence of brick and stone would be the way we're going. But one person the other day said, I'd like to see gargoyles on the top of the building. So who knows? Now's your time for input.
I was going to say, when I look at the library, that to me speaks volumes about how you can make a building look just beautiful, and that expansion afterward
absolutely
kept the character. But it has that very stately look to it, and I think a lot of people would probably say maybe that's what you need in a city hall.
And it'll be there for the next 100 years, so let's make sure we do it right the first time.
The old look, though, and I know some people say, gee, we need to get rid of that. That looks too 1950s or 1960s. There is something very quaint, though, even about the architecture of that period.
Oh yes, absolutely. In fact, a lot of the downtown area has that permanence to it. Since we grew up as a kind of a cowboy town in the early part of the century, 19th century, or 20th century, I guess it was, 100 plus years ago, we'll put it that way. In fact, we are getting ready to have our 111th birthday at Twin Falls here about the same time that Idaho will have its 125th, I believe, on July 3rd.
One of the great bumper stickers I've ever seen about all of this is a bumper sticker from the Centennial, and then tongue in cheek at the bottom it says celebrating 50 years of progress.
Yeah.
So one of those.
Some of us had to think about that for a while.
Well, for people who'd like to get in touch with you, obviously they can call the city.
Yeah.
And they can email you too as well. You're on the website.
Indeed, but I'll give my home phone, 404-6120. I'd love to hear people their ideas about what they'd like to see the downtown look like, and in particular City Hall, 404-6120.
I've talked to some of your colleagues, and they say do try to make sure that it's within reason, because 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, you don't usually answer a lot of questions.
I'm here to serve, and as long as I can call you back at 1 or 2 o'clock, then it's an even deal. How's that?
I think that will pretty much give people a little thought to keeping this within some certain boundaries. But the one thing that I think that all of you have mentioned when you've been coming in the studio is, when you had a hearing about backward parking that went on for hours, but if you have a hearing about how to spend the city budget, it's brief. And that's where you really need people's input. I mean, the parking issue was really a small issue. It's that people can't complain if they don't have any input.
Well, in all fairness, when you're dealing with the $65 million budget, you don't know the question is asked generally unless you're engaged as a community activist. People generally respond, Bill, to something very close to home, whether you're going to widen a road or that sort of a thing. We certainly encourage public input. It does not have to end after our budget is enacted come the first part of September, but we do want to encourage people at all times to say we think we need to do something different, or we need more police, or we don't like to have all these parks, whatever. Everybody's opinion is valid.
Again, your telephone number in case people would like to contact you.
404-6120. That's my cell phone, and it's always on my hip.
Got a question for you, because you were a broadcaster at one time. So when I go on vacation, I'm going to put you on the spot. We're looking for people to occasionally sit in. You'd be a great celebrity guest.
I don't know about celebrity, but I love the microphone, Bill.
All right. I want to thank you for coming by today.
Always a pleasure.
We'll see you again, I think, in a couple of months or so.
Okay, thanks, Bill.
Councilman Chris Talkington joining us this morning from Twin Falls. News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. This is Top Story with Bill Colley. 20 minutes now after 9:71. Hey, I've got some more to talk about with you. Environmental stories coming up in just a moment. A prediction about what this year was going to be like made by ABC News 8 years ago, how they got it horribly wrong.